In most countries, if you walked into a stadium, sat down next to 1,000 strangers, and watched two roosters fight to the death with razor blades strapped to their legs while the crowd bet thousands of dollars on the outcome, you would probably be arrested. In the Philippines, that is called a Sunday afternoon. The Philippines is one of those places that operates on a completely different set of rules from the rest of the world. Things that would land you in jail in Europe, get you fined in America, or just get you very strange looks in Australia are completely normal everyday life here in the islands. And the wildest part? Once you understand the reasons behind these things, most of them actually make a lot of sense. So here are 10 things that are perfectly normal in the Philippines but would be considered weird or flat-out illegal almost everywhere else. Number 1. Cockfighting is a legal billion-dollar national sport. In most of the Western world, cockfighting is a serious criminal offense. In the United States, it is a federal felony in all 50 states. In the United Kingdom, it has been banned since 1835. But in the Philippines, cockfighting, known locally as sabong, is not just legal. It is a regulated, government-sanctioned industry worth an estimated 50 billion pesos a year. That is roughly $900 million. And this is not some fringe underground activity. There are over 2,500 cockpits spread across the islands. Matches are held every week, sometimes daily, and they draw crowds from every social class. Doctors, farmers, businessmen, politicians, everyone watches sabong. The tradition goes back centuries. When Ferdinand Magellan's expedition arrived in the Philippines in 1521, the Italian diarist Antonio Pigafetta noted that cockfighting was already flourishing. That means Filipinos were watching roosters fight before Shakespeare was even born. The fights themselves are intense. Two roosters with razor-sharp metal spurs tied to their legs are placed beak to beak in a small ring. A referee called a sentenciador oversees the match, and a man called the Cristo takes bets from the crowd. He is called the Cristo because he stands with his arms outstretched, calling out wagers from memory, looking like a man on a cross. In 1974, President Ferdinand Marcos signed Presidential Decree number 449 creating the cockfighting law, which formalized the rules around the sport. It was framed not as gambling, but as the preservation of native Filipino heritage. Try telling that to an animal rights officer in London. Number 2. You cannot get divorced. This one catches almost every foreigner off guard. The Philippines is the only country in the entire world, besides Vatican City, where divorce is illegal for the majority of its citizens. Let that context sink in for a second. Every other nation on Earth has some form of legal divorce. The Philippines does not. If a Filipino couple gets married and the relationship falls apart, even in cases of abuse, infidelity, or abandonment, the only legal option is annulment. Annulment in the Philippines is not quick or cheap. It typically costs around $4,000 in legal fees, which is a massive sum in a country where the average monthly salary is far less than that. The process can also take years to complete. The reason goes back to Spanish colonial rule and the deep influence of the Catholic Church. Over 80% of the Filipino population is Catholic, and the Church has lobbied aggressively against divorce legislation for decades. In 2024, the House of Representatives actually passed an absolute divorce bill, but it still needs to clear the Senate, where opposition remains strong. For now, if you marry in the Philippines, it is essentially forever. Foreign spouses can get around this by obtaining a divorce in their home country, but the Filipino partner remains legally bound unless the Philippine courts formally recognize that foreign divorce. If you are an expat thinking about marrying a Filipina, this is one detail you definitely want to understand before signing anything. Number 3. Sari-sari stores and the sachet economy. Walk through any neighborhood in the Philippines and you will see them everywhere. Small wooden or concrete stalls built into the front of someone's house, with a metal grate separating the shopkeeper from the buyer. These are sari-sari stores, and they sell nearly everything you could need, but in the smallest possible quantities. 1 cigarette, 1 sachet of shampoo, 1 packet of instant coffee, a single egg, a few tablespoons of cooking oil poured into a small plastic bag. In most Western countries, this would seem bizarre. Why not just buy the whole bottle? In a country where the daily minimum wage in many provinces is under $10, Buying in bulk is a luxury that many families simply cannot afford. The sachet economy allows families to get exactly what they need for today and worry about tomorrow when it comes. There are an estimated over 1 million sari-sari stores across the Philippines. They outnumber convenience store chains by a massive margin. They function as the backbone of community commerce, and many of them operate on a system of credit called utang, where regular customers can buy now and pay later. There are no contracts, no interest charges, just trust between neighbors. For foreigners, the first time someone hands you shampoo in a tiny plastic pouch, it feels strange. After a few months of living in the Philippines, you realize it is actually a brilliant system. Number 4, pointing with your lips. This one will confuse you for the first week. You ask someone for directions, and instead of pointing with their hand, they purse their lips forward in the direction you need to go. No finger, no hand gesture, just a subtle lip movement. In most Western cultures, this would look like someone about to blow you a kiss. In the Philippines, it is the standard way of indicating direction, especially when your hands are full or when pointing with a finger would be considered rude. Filipino culture generally considers it impolite to point directly at a person with your finger. The lip point is the polite alternative, and once you learn to recognize it, you will notice Filipinos doing it constantly. At the market, on the street, inside restaurants, everywhere. As a foreigner, the first few times this happens, you will probably just stand there confused while someone puckers their lips at you. But once you get it, you might actually start doing it yourself. It is surprisingly practical. Number 5, eating balut is completely casual. If you have been anywhere near Southeast Asian travel content, you have probably heard of balut. It is a fertilized duck egg with a partially developed embryo inside, typically between 14 and 21 days old. You crack the shell open, sip the broth, and eat the contents, feathers and beak and all, depending on how far along it is. In the Philippines, balut is not a dare or a challenge or a tourist stunt. It is a regular street snack, sold by vendors pushing carts through residential neighborhoods in the evening. You will hear them calling out the word balut as they walk past. A single egg usually costs around 20 pesos, which is less than 40 cents. Filipinos eat balut the way Americans eat hot dogs at a baseball game. It is cheap, it is casual, and nobody thinks twice about it. Some people add vinegar and salt, others eat it plain. For most Westerners, the idea of biting into something with visible feathers and a tiny beak is deeply unsettling. In several European countries, selling fertilized eggs for consumption would run into food safety regulations. But in the Philippines, it is just another Tuesday night snack. The protein content is actually impressive. Filipinos have known that for generations. Number 6, entire families on a single motorcycle. In Western countries, motorcycle laws are strict. Helmets are mandatory, passengers are limited, and children on motorcycles are heavily regulated or outright banned. In the Philippines, things work a little differently in practice. It is extremely common, especially outside of Metro Manila, to see a family of 4 or even 5 on a single scooter. Dad driving, mom sitting behind him holding a baby, and a small child squeezed between them. Sometimes there is a dog in the footwell for good measure. The Philippines does have motorcycle safety laws. Republic Act 10666, the Children's Safety on Motorcycles Act of 2015, restricts children from riding on busy public roads unless they can reach the foot pegs and hold the driver's waist. Helmets are required under the Motorcycle Helmet Act of 2009. Enforcement is a different story, particularly in rural areas and smaller towns. When a motorcycle is the family's only mode of transportation and public transit is unreliable or non-existent, families make it work with what they have. Provincial roads in the Philippines are filled with overloaded scooters weaving through traffic, and to locals, it is just how you get from point A to point B. For a foreigner watching this for the first time on a highway in Cebu or Davao, it is genuinely nerve-wracking. For Filipinos, it is Tuesday. Number 7, karaoke. At any hour of the day or night. In most Western countries, if your neighbor fired up a karaoke machine at 6 in the morning on a Sunday, you would probably call the police. In the Philippines, that neighbor would just be getting an early start. Karaoke is deeply woven into Filipino culture. It is not a hobby. It is closer to a national religion. Nearly every neighborhood has at least one household with a karaoke machine, and it gets used constantly. Birthday parties, funerals, random Wednesday afternoons, it does not matter. If there is a microphone and a speaker, someone is singing. Filipino neighborhoods are loud by Western standards. Music, celebrations, and communal gatherings are part of everyday life, and karaoke is the soundtrack to all of it. Noise complaints are rare, because complaining about noise would be like complaining about the weather. Everyone does it, so nobody sees it as a problem. The Philippines is also home to the My Way killings, a phenomenon where arguments over the Frank Sinatra song My Way have occasionally turned violent in karaoke bars. It became so notorious that some bars reportedly removed the song from their playlists entirely. If you are planning to retire in the Philippines, invest in good earplugs, or better yet, buy your own machine and join in. Number 8. Armed guards and bag checks at every mall. Imagine walking into your local shopping center and being greeted by a security guard with a shotgun who wants to inspect the inside of your bag. In most Western countries, this would be cause for alarm. In the Philippines, it is just how you enter a mall. Nearly every commercial establishment in the Philippines, from large shopping centers to fast food restaurants, has uniformed security guards stationed at the entrance. Many carry firearms. Most will open your bag, give it a quick visual inspection, and wave you through. Some malls even have X-ray scanners similar to airport security. This is a holdover from decades of security concerns, including bombings and kidnappings that plagued parts of the country in the early 2000s. But for Filipinos, it is just part of the routine. Nobody flinches, nobody complains. You open your bag, the guard glances inside, and you walk through to buy your groceries. For first-time visitors, especially those from countries where armed security at a shopping center would signal a serious threat, the experience can be jarring, but you get used to it fast. And honestly, knowing that every person who enters the building has been checked does provide a certain sense of security. Number 9. Filipino time. If you are invited to a party in the Philippines that starts at 7, do not show up at 7. Show up at 8. Maybe 8:30. Because in the Philippines, time is more of a suggestion than a commitment. Filipino time is a widely acknowledged cultural phenomenon where events, gatherings, and even business meetings routinely start 30 minutes to an hour later than scheduled. It is so common that it has its own name, and most Filipinos will openly joke about it. In cultures where punctuality is a sign of respect, like Germany, Japan, or Switzerland, showing up late is considered rude. In the Philippines, showing up exactly on time to a social event might actually make the host uncomfortable because they are probably not ready yet either. This does not apply universally, of course. Corporate environments, medical appointments, and flights still operate on regular time. But for social gatherings, fiestas, and community events, the unwritten rule is that the posted start time is more of an estimate. For expats adjusting to life in the Philippines, this is one of the harder cultural shifts. You will spend the first few months being frustrated. Then you will start being 30 minutes late yourself. Then you will wonder why you ever stressed about time in the first place. Number 10. New Year's Eve looks like a war zone. Every December 31st, the Philippines transforms into what can only be described as a civilian fireworks battlefield. This is not about organized city displays launched safely from a barge in a harbor. This is about families in residential neighborhoods setting off industrial-grade firecrackers, homemade explosives, and fireworks that would require a federal license in most Western countries. The tradition is rooted in the belief that loud noises ward off evil spirits and bring good luck for the coming year. Filipinos take this very seriously, and the result is an hours-long barrage of explosions that shakes windows, sets off car alarms, and fills the sky with smoke so thick it looks like a fog bank has rolled in. The human cost is real. Every year, Philippine hospitals prepare special trauma wards for New Year's Eve. Injuries from firecrackers, stray bullets from celebratory gunfire, and burns from bonfires send hundreds, sometimes thousands, of people to emergency rooms across the country. The Department of Health runs an annual campaign to reduce firecracker injuries, but the tradition persists. In most European countries, personal fireworks are heavily regulated or outright banned. In the Philippines, a teenager can buy a brick of firecrackers from a roadside stand and light them in the middle of the street while his grandmother cheers him on. It is chaotic, dangerous, and absolutely spectacular. If you experience a Filipino New Year's Eve once, you will never forget it. So there you have it. 10 things that are completely normal in the Philippines, but would raise serious eyebrows or criminal charges almost anywhere else on the planet. And here is the thing. None of these are signs that something is wrong with the Philippines. They are signs that Filipino culture developed its own rules, its own logic, and its own way of doing things. Sometimes brilliantly practical, sometimes genuinely dangerous, but always uniquely Filipino. If you found this interesting, hit subscribe. I cover life in Southeast Asia every week, from the culture shocks to the retirement tips that nobody else talks about. And if you want to see what daily life actually looks like for expats in the Philippines, that video is on screen.